Cole MacGrath, known to the world as the Demon of Empire City, later known as the Patron Saint of New Marais, versus the Protector of New York City, Spider-Man. These are two very powerful superheroes with a wide range of interesting abilities and moments in their respective video game series. I just thought it'd be interesting to see who would win in a fight. I'll be using both of these characters' best feats across the board, so their attack potency, durability, speed, and equipment. Another thing I think is important to mention is Newton's third law of motion, which states that any force you're outputting would be output on whoever is enacting that force. So let's say you clock Superman in the jaw and you manage to hurt him. That would mean that your body would have to be durable enough to endure that level of force due to counter force. Due to this, in this video, any feat of durability would be comparable to that character's attack potency, unless I say otherwise. I will be using the good karma version of Cole from Infamous 1 and 2 in this video, and with all that out the way, let's get right into it. At the very beginning of Infamous, Cole showed off one of his best displays in terms of his durability. He was shown being able to survive a ray spear explosion at the epicenter of the blast, which was shown encompassing the entirety of Empire City and was stated to destroy 5 to 6 city blocks, a feat that would require 55 megatons of TNT to perform, thus placing Cole's durability at city level at the very beginning of Infamous. Some people try to debunk this feat by stating that a ray spear doesn't harm a conduit, but this is simply not true. In Infamous, Kessler says he was worried that Cole would not live through the blast, but this isn't my only source of evidence, because in Infamous 2, John White reveals he was torn apart atom by the ray spear while being a conduit. Not to mention the fact that Cole was shown having third-degree burns due to the ray spear. In Infamous 2, Cole is shown being damaged by blast shard bombs that are charged by ray field radiation, which also powers the ray spear. After the ray spear explosion, the ray spear itself was completely unharmed. This is important because at the end of Infamous, Cole used his lightning to completely destroy the ray spear while it was in his protective container, which was made to withstand a ray spear explosion. In the beginning of Infamous 2, the Beast, formerly known as John White, was shown destroying the entirety of Empire City, which is the Infamous universe's version of New York City, in one blast, a feat that is capped at 350 megatons of TNT, which would give the Beast large mountain levels of attack potency. More impressively, the Beast's mere presence covered the entirety of the sky above Empire City with dark clouds. The kinetic energy needed to do this would have to be around 1.8 to 2 gigatons of TNT. The Beast was also able to casually shrug off being hit by a nuke, and Cole was able to go blow for blow against the Beast and tank several of the Beast's attacks. The Beast was also stated to be acting off impulse and bloodlusted at the start of the game, perceiving Cole as the strongest threat in the city. Cole's lightning was able to damage and even blow off parts of the Beast's body, and although Cole lost, he should somewhat scale to the Beast's feats. Cole's physical strength is nothing to laugh at. He has been shown being able to pry open the mouth of a devourer, which weighs 375 tons and can casually yank large vehicles into the air using his physical strength. He can also easily lift steel beams and debris. He was also able to physically overwhelm Kessler, who could cause city-level earthquakes by just punching the ground. Arguably, Cole's best feat was against his alternate future counterpart Kessler, who had decades of experience, technology, and mastery over his powers. After being defeated by Cole, he implanted his memories of the Beast in Cole's mind, and it was shown that the future Beast in his early days cracked the moon, a multi-continental feat. Kessler then states that he had the power to kill the Beast at this point, but he chose to flee with his family. This in turn could potentially place Cole's attack potency at multi-continental. This would also be consistent with the current timeline Beast, who is able to convert the mass of around 8 to 10 million people into energy, a feat that is calced at 12 pentatons of TNT at a low end and 15 at a high end. When looking at Spider-Man's best durability feat, look no further to his feat against Electro, where he was able to tank Electro's attack, which was able to ram right through a smokestack. When accounting for the violent fragmentation, the surface area and the volume of the concrete is a feat calced at 3.5 tons of TNT, or large building level. He's also been shown being able to endure the attacks of multiple Sinister Six members at once, who all have large building level scaling. He's able to go head to head and physically harm characters like Rhino, Dr. Octopus, and Mr. Negative. Spider-Man stated in the character bios to be able to lift up to 10 tons, which allows him to lift and move cars, lift large amounts of rubble and debris, and casually juggle and throw enemies through the air. But this isn't necessarily the highest scaling for Peter. Peter's protege, Miles Morales, was able to absorb the energy and endure the explosion of the new form reactor, which was stated to have the energy to vaporize all of Harlem, which will require 1.7 megatons of TNT. Peter is at least equal to, if not stronger than Miles, and this could potentially scale Peter's durability to small city level. When it comes to Cole's speed scaling, he's shown to be able to casually react to and dodge all types of military weaponry such as automatic rifle fire, rockets, missiles, anti-aircraft cannons, and turrets, feats that would require supersonic reaction speeds. During his fight against Kessler, he was able to dodge Kessler's lightning at close ranges after it was fired without breaking a sweat. The average speed of lightning is Mach 1294, which would give Cole massively hypersonic combat and reaction speeds. To further support this, Cole's been shown to be able to summon and absorb the energy from lightning in the sky. The attacks that Cole fires out of his hands are also stated to be true lightning bolts, which means his attacks are also massively hypersonic. He can also dodge grenades at point blank ranges, which is calced at Mach 190 or massively hypersonic. However, his best speed feat is shown during the evil ending of Infamous 2 during his fight against Nyx, where he's shown dodging a beam of radiation fired at him by the RFI, which would be moving at the speed of light. When factoring the speed of the beam and the distance Cole moved to dodge it, this would place Cole's combat and reaction speeds at relativistic or 50% the speed of light. The argument that this only scales to evil Cole cannot be used in this instance because evil and good Cole follow the same power progression at this point, the only exception being that evil Cole has pyrokinetic abilities and good Cole has cryokinetic abilities, and there's nothing to suggest that good Cole wouldn't scale to this. The speed of the beam of radiation is also shown completely encompassing the atmosphere of Earth in a good ending, killing off thousands of conduits around the world in mere seconds. Insomniac Spider-Man also has very impressive showings when it comes to his speed. He's able to dodge automatic rifle fire, missiles, and rockets, and he can also grab and redirect rockets after they've already been fired. He's also able to dodge lightning bolts, which is showcased during his fight against Electro, where he is shown keeping up with and dodging Electro's electric attacks, which moves at 440,000 meters per second or Mach 1294. Although many of these feats are due to Spider Sense, it is an ability that he passively has, so it would apply for this scaling. These feats easily place Peter in a massively hypersonic range when it comes to his combat and reaction speeds. With his perfect dodge suit ability, Peter's perception of time slows down, and this would place his reaction speeds at a higher level of massively hypersonic. While Cole is no expert martial artist, he is a very proficient hand-to-hand combatant, showcasing the ability to fight at close ranges and being very acrobatic in combat. He also has a melee weapon called the Amp, which functions as a lightning rod, allowing him to channel his electricity through it, severely amping his close range attacks and further bolstering his already impressive versatility. Even before getting his powers, Cole is a very impressive athlete and has shown very impressive parkour skills, being able to casually walk across tightropes and climb and jump across buildings in seconds. After the blast, Cole was granted the ability to generate and manipulate electricity and electromagnetic fields. He can shoot regular lightning bolts, multiple bolts at a time, long-range lightning bolts at enemies further away, and powerful thunderbolts out of his hands. He can even fire a constant stream of lightning bolts at will. He has also displayed the ability to switch through and use different variations of his lightning during the midst of combat. He can also fire out shockwaves that are capable of flipping over cars and redirecting and blowing away projectiles. These shockwaves are even capable of blowing away and inducing an anti-gravity effect on enemies it touches. He can fire out powerful rockets and redirect these rockets by hitting them with an electric bolt. He can also fire out sticky rockets to latch onto enemies and explode on impact. He can throw electrical grenades, and if he misses his target, the grenade can latch onto the nearest enemy. He can even throw clusters of these grenades to deal devastating damage. With his kinetic pulse, he can throw objects as heavy as cars and trucks through the air at enemies. With his magnetism, he can pull himself to other objects or objects to himself. He can also create an electrical blade to deal damage in close combat, and he even has an electric shield which converts bullets and projectiles into energy for him to use. He can glide through the air with his static thrusters, and when falling from high distances, he can create shockwaves when he slams into the ground. He has the ability to manipulate ice to launch himself into the air, use and fire out a ball of condensed sub-zero gas in the form of rockets and grenades to instantly freeze enemies and create cover, and he can use and fire out spikes of ice with his shockwaves. When near a source of electricity, Cole can absorb it to replenish his electrical reserves and instantly heal himself from damage. He has an electric radar sense, which allows him to sense every source of electricity within his radius, allowing him to sense where enemies are at all times. Cole can absorb ions with an electrical charge to use his ionic attacks, which are by far his most powerful attacks. He can summon lightning, tornadoes, and unleash a devastating freezing attack. Cole can supercharge certain areas of his brain, which amps his senses and slows down time for Cole, which allows him to snipe enemies from further distances with greater precision. His powerful abilities and his impressive wits allowed Cole to fight off small armies of superpowered soldiers who have access to technology that is at least 100 years more advanced than the rest of the world. Spider-Man is extremely versatile in his own right, having a variety of gadgets at his disposal. His superhuman abilities allows him to stick to pretty much any surface and greatly increase his strength, speed, and agility. He can easily easily run on walls and parkour throughout the streets of New York. All of this coupled with his web shooters allows him to launch himself into the air and perform very agile movements. He could easily build momentum through the air and angle his body to move through tight and narrow gaps and crevices. He could use his web zip and launch himself at great heights into the air due to the elasticity of his muscles and his raw strength. His balance, coordination, and dexterity allows his body to execute one-of-a-kind maneuvers in the air or on the ground to outmaneuver and give himself advantages against his enemies. He also has a limited healing factor, which has allowed him to easily recover from having 14 of his bones broken. His most powerful ability, which he calls his spider sense, functions as a form of precognition for Peter, allowing him to sense incoming danger. When looking at Spider-Man's gadgets, he has his web shooters, which allows him to shoot out webs to restrain and pull enemies. These webs are easily stronger than steel, and he even used it to stop a helicopter from falling into people. He has more web-based gadgets, such as his impact web, that allows him to shoot out a higher concentration of web fluid that instantly sticks an enemy to a surface, web bombs that detonates a large cluster of web fluid, sticking multiple enemies together, his trip mine, which activates whenever an enemy walks on it and attaches them to a nearby surface. He has a gadget which fires out electric webs, electrocuting enemies, creating a chain lightning effect on groups of enemies. He has his suspension matrix, which creates an anti-gravity effect on enemies in its range, and concussive blast that sends out shockwaves, blowing enemies away. He has a spider drone, which can get into places he can't reach and can even serve as an ally in combat, utilizing his own gadgets to help him. When it comes to Peter's hand-to-hand prowess, it cannot be understated how impressive he is. He was skilled enough to beat Taskmaster, who scales to Spider-Man's strength and speed and uses his ability to copy and mimic any combat maneuver he sees. Taskmaster also has the ability to predict the movements of others and is an extremely skilled hand-to-hand combatant who collected data on Peter's moves and gadgets, and he ultimately still lost to Spider-Man. When matching up these two fighters, it's clear that Cole MacGrath has a clear advantage when it comes to their strength and durability. Even if we scale Spider-Man to Miles' new form feet, which threaten all of Harlem, he is still several times weaker than Cole. Even when looking at their raw physical stats, Cole blatantly has better showings of strength, being capable of forcing open the mouth of a 375-ton devourer, which is blatantly more impressive than anything Insomniac Peter has done at this point. Even when accounting for the fact that he implied he stopped the train with his raw physical strength, that would only put him in the 20 to 25-ton range of strength, a far cry from Cole MacGrath. Now when it comes to their speed feats, Cole dodging a beam of radiation from the ray field inhibitor places his reaction speeds at 50% the speed of light, compared to Peter, whose best showings is dodging electricity from Electro, which is in the massively hypersonic ranges of speed. This means that Cole would not only be stronger in this scenario, he would be able to react and keep up with Spider-Man. Spider-Man has shown the ability to and would be able to dodge Cole's lightning and attacks, but in a fight against Cole MacGrath, every move Cole makes would have Spider-Man on his toes, and he would have no room for error. All Cole would have to do was hit Spider-Man once and the fight would be over. With his radar sense, Cole would know where Spider-Man is at all times, and he would be able to counter this with his superior reaction speeds. Even with the spider sense, Peter has been shown being tagged by characters way below Cole's pay grade. If Peter takes this fight to the air, Cole would just keep up with his static thrusters and his lightning tether, and chip away at Spider-Man with his precision mode. Peter's gadgets would have little to no use against Cole MacGrath, and wouldn't really be able to restrain him because of his ice abilities and his raw strength. Cole was able to escape the pull of the Beast's gravitational singularity, and he has shown no problem fighting against the Beast's anti-gravity with his static thrusters, so the suspension matrix wouldn't be a problem. Cole's simply a very unique combination of power, adaptability, and melee ability, and the combination of his different ice and electrical abilities would be a problem for the web crawler. I also can't forget to mention that although Spider-Man has been a superhero far longer than Cole, who's only really had his powers for a few months, this wouldn't really be as drastic as you'd believe because of the blast cores in Infamous. When absorbed by a conduit, it not only amps their stats and grants them a new ability, but it gives them an innate understanding of the ability, even if they've never used it before, to the point where after absorbing a few core relays, Delsin could beat Augustine with her own powers, who happened to be the most powerful conduit at that point, even though she had 7 years of honing and mastering her abilities. All of these factors make Cole MacGrath the victor of this matchup. If you like this type of content, leave a like on the video, and any suggestions for the next video in the comment below. This is Destro, and I'm out.